I'm with Nick van Rensburg, who's the head of Zimele, Anglo-American's Empowerment and Enterprise Development arm. Nick, you've been there for 22 years now.
Yes, it's been quite a long haul.
How did Zimele start? What was the environment at that stage?
We started in 1989, and it was a result of some work that Clem Sunter did in the early days to explore the synergy between big business and small business, and went off to Malaysia to go and have a look at some examples there. And when he came back, he then, as part of his scenario planning, said that this is what Anglo-American should be doing. Of course, in those days we had a massive supply chain, and because we owned quite a large part of the stock exchange in those days, so we had a massive supply chain, and we could actually tap into that supply chain to give effect to black economic empowerment. Black people were excluded through the apartheid system from participating in the economy of South Africa, and we used this as a vehicle to start the transformation and to start including black people in the economy of South Africa. 22
years later, do you still see it primarily as an inclusionary objective?
I think a lot of the transformation has happened. I think there are many black businesses out there that are empowered. Now, for instance, if we ask for a tender for putting up fences around one of our operations, you'll find that we get 16 responses, and all 16 of those companies are empowered. So, you know, that was the effect of the work that we done in the early days. In the early days, we used to put in the tender documents as a requirement that you should have black ownership, and that effect has come through now. What we see is there's still a problem for small companies to access finance. There are still skills issues around entrepreneurs, which we have to address with mentorship and that sort of things. It's not an easy ride, but it's a darn sight better than what it was in 1989 when we started.
Nick, where does the road lead?
South Africa needs a lot more development capital. We cannot continue to function on commercial capital. We have to lower the bar in terms of interest rates. When we lend to small businesses, we have to make access to the money easier. We have to put less stringent credit criteria in place so that small businesses can start participating. Large corporates are just shedding jobs all the time. The seed bed for job creation is in the SME space, and we have to find development capital to make that easier. With the Jobs Fund that the government has just launched through the DBSA, we see that there's a lot of activity in that space, and hopefully that development capital will start creating the jobs that we so dearly need for young people in South Africa, and in fact it will create a more stable middle class in South Africa.
Do you think there'll still be a role? Do you want there to be a role for Zimele in another 22 years?
I would hope that we won't need that role, that, you know, the public sector will pick up that role, money will become available, and that other corporates will start participating in this thing in a big way, so that we can have that access to funding hurdle and take it out the way. The skills issue will remain an issue for as long as people are not running their own businesses. New entrants need to find. So it's also an education issue. So for as long as that there's a role, we might have a role to play there. But I think black economic empowerment in South Africa has momentum of its own. I think it's unstoppable. It's growing. More and more companies are becoming empowerment. I see the youngsters coming out of universities now, young black people, take up their rightful positions in companies, which they've earned, and managing these companies extremely successful. So I'm very encouraged with what I see in happening on the ground now with youngsters, and also with more money becoming available for SMEs.
Nick van Rensburg, head of Anglo-American Zimele.